between 35 yards. I'm gonna say between, I'm shooting this. Okay guys, so here's the dilemma. Which of two releases that I use should I use for hunting season? So what I'd like to do is kind of compare and contrast these two very similar style releases and tell you kind of what I've found out. This one is generally called a hook style, and as you can see, it's kind of shaped like a little hook here. So that's a hook style release. This one is what's commonly referred to as a single jaw style. And as you can see, this jaw opens and closes as you trigger it. So I've been shooting with both. I have noticed that at farther distances, being 35 yards and more, that this hook style release shoots further to the right of the target than the other. These are very, very similar in the way that they work. You know, this has a single trigger with no opposing side. This is a single jaw with an opposing side. You would think that they would shoot basically identical, but they don't. So what I did is I shot both of them with multiple arrows, and I made a little chart to kind of a little test here. And what I found out, and what you see here, is the hook style with all the shooting on average was coming out about 2.08 inches further to the right than the bullseye of the target. So it was shooting about 2 inches to the right of with this hook style. And then over here with the single jaw, you notice down here on average it shot 1.17 inches to the right of bullseye at 35 yards. So the hook style was a little more inaccurate than the single jaw style. So again, the hook style was a little more inaccurate. The single jaw style was a little more accurate. So I began to wonder, why would that be? And so let me give you my thoughts, and I'd love for you guys to comment and tell me your thoughts and which one would you choose to hunt with. So here's my thought. First, let's look at the single jaw style. Okay. No, this one. Okay, so when we shoot, when it's closed, the string is through the release. Notice when you trigger it, the single jaw moves over and away from the string. So as the string is released, it comes straight out of this gap and up. As the string leaves the release, there's no need for it to touch the moving jaw here. All right, so that's the single jaw. Now let's look at how this one's different. When the string is engaged into the hook and you go to shoot, you trigger the release, the hook does not automatically fly open like it did in the other one. The string has to push the hook open to release. And so my contention is that as the string has to push this open, it maintains contact with it the whole time, and so the string is ever so slightly having to be pushed off to the side, and so that affects the flight of the arrow just a little bit to the right. At 25 yards, the two don't have really any difference. They shoot the same at 25 yards, but at 35 yards the arrow starts to show up a little bit, and the hook style design pushes the arrow off to the right just a little bit because of the way the string leaves that hook. So that's what I think is going on, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. To comment below and tell me if you agree with that assessment or if you have a different idea on why these two may be shooting a little bit differently. Now you may say, well, look, at 35 yards and 1 inch doesn't matter, and you'd be right, but we have to consider that I'm shooting at home here, right? So I'm on the concrete, I'm balanced, I have good position, I have a controlled environment around me, so I've got all the variables stacked in my favor. So that 1 inch at 35 yards at home is different. As we know, when we get to the woods, things are quite a bit different. Our blood's pumping, we're breathing heavy, we're excited, there's a deer, we've got we're way up in the air. So we've got all these other variables that change the dynamics of what's going on, and so I believe in a hunting situation that error may be multiplied 4 or 5 times, so that 1 inch error at home is a much bigger error in the woods, and so that does, I think that is worthy of consideration at least. So with that information, you may take the two releases, and you may say, well, then there's no doubt about it, you need to be hunting with the single jaw type. But there's one other consideration that we need to talk about, and that is when we see a deer. And so let's take a look at the single jaw type first. Okay, so we're hunting. I see a deer. I have my eyes on the deer, and I want to draw back. So I've got to take my eyes off of my deer, and I've got to bring it to my string, and I've got to find my loop. I've got to take my release and clip into the loop, and then I can take my eyes back over to the deer and draw back. Okay, that's what I don't like in the hunting situation about this release. It requires that I take my eye off of that deer and look at my string, even if it's just for 2-3 seconds, before I can get back on the deer. Okay, so that's what I don't like about this one. So now let's take a look back to the hook style. All right, so this one is much different in that I don't have to take my eye off the deer at all to get clipped in, ready to shoot. So I'm going to pretend like this is a bowstring for illustration purposes here. All right, so this is my bowstring. I see a deer, and so because of this hook design, when I see the deer, all I really need to do is I can continue to keep my eye on the deer. I bring the hook and I bring it over until I feel my bowstring and just pull it back and it engages. Okay, so at that point my eyes are still on the deer, but I've got my release is engaged on my bowstring. So now all I need to do is slide. I take my thumb and oppose it over here, and I'm going to slide up and down my bowstring until I feel my loop, and then all I do is just kind of back off the string and grab into my loop, and I'm ready to pull back and shoot. So that sounds kind of cumbersome, maybe takes a long time and as I'm describing it, but it's really not. It's just like this. I see a deer, I reach in, I find my line, I move down, I find my loop, I pull off, engage the loop, and I'm done. So it's just that quick and easy. And the great thing about it is I've kept my eye on that deer the whole time. And you know how it is. You've got a deer that you're watching here, and there's 2 or 3 others around it. And so you're watching all the other deer as well as you're watching your deer, because you don't want to make a move when one of the other deer pops its head up. So being able to keep my deer on that situation and be able to get clipped in without ever looking at my bow, my string, is really, really an advantage. So in summary, we've got 2 very similar style of releases here. They're both a single action, but yet they perform differently. This one, the single jaw, has an advantage in accuracy. This hook style has an advantage in not having to take your eye off the deer. So what I'd like to know from you guys is, which one would you decide to hunt with? Which one would you choose given those 2 characteristics? Which one would you choose? I have my idea on what I would do, but I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys think. So comment down below. Have a great day. God bless you, and look forward to seeing what y'all think.